Welcome to Fascinated by Design. I'm a 4/6 splenic projector, living my design in real time and sharing insights from decades of practicing psychology and energy medicine. Ready to dive into what's fascinating me today? Let's go. Hello, it has been a while. I hope that everyone is enjoying their summer. I very much have been enjoying mine. I went through a phase of being very social and have also just been going through some transitions. So I've just been needing to process through all of that. The episode that I'm sharing with you today, I started to record on June 25th. And the energy flow of it was really good for a large part of the episode. And then it just started to peter out. So rather than forcing the rest of it, I decided to take a break until I felt called to finish it. And it's only been about the last week or so that I've been drawn to pick this up and work on it again. So here it is, and I hope you enjoy it. Hi, I'm Suzanne, and today I want to talk about my fascination with the emerging energy of the cross of the sleeping phoenix. I've been noticing some really interesting ways that the energy of this cross is unfolding in my own life, and I'm super curious to hear what everybody else has been experiencing. I feel like I want to start by describing what I'm seeing on my own little puzzle piece of this emerging energy and put it out there so that you too can share what you're noticing on your puzzle pieces. And hopefully, if we put all of our little puzzle pieces together, we'll start to see a bigger vision. So right now, as I'm recording this, the sun has moved into gate 52, the gate of stillness, which is my personality sun sign. My solar return is happening in just a few days, and that placement makes me a cross of service person. The energy that is up right now is landing in a very personal way for me. One of the things that I've been noticing throughout my whole life is that it is very natural for me when I'm making decisions to be considering the greater good, particularly the greater good of the people that I'm most connected with. And since I'm learning about human design, I just assume that that's because I have this cross of service, and it's kind of baked into me to be of service to other people. What I've been noticing lately, though, is a greater sense of resistance in my body when it comes to decisions that would require me to sacrifice my own needs in service of the greater good. It's not something that I'm noticing in every situation, but it is this strong somatic resistance or tension that feels like a no, like a full body no. And this very well may be because I have splenic authority that it's showing up that way. In general, I would consider myself to be high on the trait of agreeableness. And I'm usually very flexible and chameleon-like, probably because of my open G center, and just kind of figure out how to make things work. Like, if it's going to serve the greater good, I'll figure it out. But more and more lately, what my body is telling me is that there actually has to be balance there. Whatever works for the greater good also has to work for me. As I'm talking about it now, I can connect to the feeling a little bit more. And I'm realizing that it's not a full shift to self-interest. It's an equilibrium between self and other. The two things need to feel in balance. And this brings to mind a word that I learned in my shamanic training, which is ayni, and it means today for you, tomorrow for me. It represents like the spirit of reciprocity and balance. And during the most recent shamanic event that I attended, I set some real intentions to bring my life into more ayni, to more balance. And the ways that that has been showing up since has actually been a lot of opportunities to practice receiving, which has somewhat tended to be a challenge for me because my early experiences with receiving, there was always a catch. There was always a obligation or expectation related to anything that I received. And because of that, I let my life get out of balance in terms of how much I would give or receive. I'd be very curious if anybody else has been having similar experiences or different expressions of a shift in that balance. Another thing that I've noticed that feels related to this paradigm shift is a desire for more self-authority and sovereignty in my career. Specifically, I'm being called to step away from having a governing body or an external authority guide or restrict the way that I'm able to work with the people I serve. So let me give you a little background about how my profession works if you're not familiar. I earned a PhD in clinical psychology and then needed to apply to a state licensure board and take a test and get approved from them in order to have the permission to do my job, even though I had already took 10 years of college to learn how to do this. And that governing body continues to place restrictions and rules about what I can and cannot do in my profession. Parts of that, in general, I think have been a really great idea, such as having standards and practices or ethical guidelines that guide a profession, especially when that profession involves dealing with people who are in vulnerable positions. But there are also other rules that feel the opposite to what my heart and soul tells me is how human beings are supposed to relate to one another. One of the specific frustrations I have is how my profession says that I'm not allowed to support or serve anyone that I know personally, or anyone who is a close relation of someone I know personally. So that means if a friend wanted to get support for one of their family members or loved ones, and I specialize in exactly what that person needs, I would have to refer them to someone else rather than my friend being able to send their loved one to a person they know and trust already in their life. To me, this feels completely backwards. What I want to do is to be able to care for the people in my community and use the wisdom and love that I have to support them. This is one of the big reasons why I'm moving my practice away from traditional clinical psychology that bills insurance and deals with lots of red tape and bureaucracy into a coaching model, one that is more growth focused instead of illness focused and allows me to work directly with members of my own community. Just today, I spent time in a meeting talking about the correct way to fill out a particular form, and the discussion lasted 15 to 20 minutes with lots of details about all of the legal ramifications of not filling out the form correctly. And as I was watching this whole conversation unfold, I had that strong no feeling like this is not aligned. It's such a waste of resources and time. That moment felt like one more confirmation that the shift I'm describing isn't just philosophical. It's showing up in my body in real time as I'm living it. Which brings me to something that's been unfolding for me in the last month or so that I think is at the heart of all of this. The other thing that I've been noticing shifting for me is an ability to be surrendered into present moment awareness in a way that I've never been able to access before in my life. The way I've been describing it to people is like a still mountain, not surprisingly, with a stream of consciousness, a stream of thoughts sort of coming towards me, and noticing in that stream all of these stories, attachments, and beliefs that I used to pick up and engage with. And mostly just watching them come and flow right on by while I'm like, wow, isn't that fascinating? Even to the point where I'm wondering, is this even real life? Like, how am I doing this? It feels surprisingly easy. And every so often, it's like I'm picking out one of these little things from the stream and examining it like, ooh, do I want to pick this up and play with this again? And then often pretty quickly, it showing it away like a disgusting bug, like, oh, no, I don't actually like how that feels. In certain moments when I can be very still and present, I can even feel almost a sense of timelessness. Like the present moment becomes infinite. And I had this moment of recognition recently about how real the shift has become for me. I was with a friend and her daughter, and my friend asked me if I was excited about my upcoming birthday party, which is in a few weeks. And I told her no. Not no, like I'm dreading it. No, like I'm not there yet. The party isn't happening now. What is here is this moment with her, with her daughter. And I was genuinely happy to be in it, to be there with her. She looked at me and said that she likes to be excited now and in the future. And I love that for her. I told her so and genuinely meant it. But here's the thing. A while ago, I probably would have told her yes. Not because I was excited, but because it's the expected answer. And I didn't want to upset or disappoint somebody who obviously was meaning well when they said what they said. Now, I'd rather be honest and confusing than agreeable and fake. And that's a shift I'm noticing, not some elevated spiritual achievement, just I can't perform enthusiasm I don't feel anymore. My body won't do it. And I don't think I'm the only one feeling this. I've been having a lot of conversations lately with clients and friends where the same theme keeps surfacing. It usually starts with a woman sharing to me that she has been considering if she may be on the autism spectrum or some version of the pop psychology terminology that's floating around these days. They talk about feeling awkward in social situations. They share about feeling different or separate from the other people around them. And they're trying to understand why. They're trying to understand why they feel the way that they feel. I think that all of us are searching for ways to understand parts of our experience that feel uncomfortable. And for many of them, the only language that they can find that seems to fit what they're experiencing is words like masking that's talked about in relation to autism spectrum symptoms. Some of the women who are questioning if they're on the autism spectrum have a history of trauma in early life or were raised by very emotionally immature parents. And some of the challenges that they're feeling are by not having these healthy models of how to understand their own emotional states and communicate them in relationships with others. My guess is the majority of adults who have difficulty with social and emotional skills probably fall into that category because generations of parenting didn't focus on these things. We haven't received them. Again, to be really clear, the experience that all of these people are having is real. All of the people who've raised these concerns to me are experiencing something real. The feeling of not fitting the social mold, of saying the true thing instead of the expected thing, of not wanting to perform anymore. These are real experiences and they deserve to be named. And I wonder if a number of the people who are reading about and exploring autism to see if it applies to them are actually experiencing something else. What a lot of the pop psychology posts don't explain to people is that every psychological diagnosis has core features that define that condition and very specific diagnostic criteria. But the diagnostic criteria aren't just some checklist where if you can say yes to all of them, you have the diagnosis. There's always a part of the diagnostic process where you have to consider if the symptoms that you're experiencing could be better explained by something else. One of those possibilities would be early life trauma, or again, the consequences of not having healthy models of social and emotional learning. And for the vast majority of women that I've had these conversations where they're considering if they may be on the autism spectrum, they lack some of the core distinguishing features of an autistic person. And just as a side note, for those of you who may be in this camp, who are considering getting evaluated to see if they may be on the spectrum, there are a very limited number of highly trained professionals who are capable of doing these assessments. And as this popular movement has continued, there's becoming more and more of very long wait lists with many of the people on that wait list who probably do not meet criteria and may actually be making it much more difficult for people who are having very significant and impairing symptoms to be able to get the assessments that they need to get services for themselves or their loved ones. But here's what I keep coming back to. What if the language that these women are searching for already exists and it just isn't mainstream yet? Because when I listen to what they're actually describing, the shedding of social performance, the resistance to censoring their truth, saying, gosh, I just put my foot in my mouth. I just speak so frankly and people don't like what I say. That sounds a lot less like a psychological diagnosis and a lot more like what we've been talking about this entire episode. It sounds to me like the cross of the sleeping phoenix starting to move through them. It sounds like that idea of sacred selfishness waking up. It sounds like the gate 20 energy, this pull towards radical presence and authenticity, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The difference is that one framework says that there's something wrong with your neurological wiring. The other says something is waking up in you. I know which one feels true in my body. I wonder which one feels true in yours. So all of these things together made me feel very curious. Is this the shift to the cross of the sleeping phoenix already unfolding in my life? Because we know it isn't going to happen all in one day where we shift completely. It's a gradual progression. And we can see many ways that the cross of planning is starting to fall apart and likely these new energies are emerging. And that led me to look up the current transits, which is something that I've never actually done before. But I was curious if there were any significant placements showing up right now related to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And wouldn't you know it, the thing I was most curious about was what was going on with gate 20. This feeling of present moment awareness that I've been feeling so strongly. And it turns out that Uranus is actually activating gate 20 right now. It was one of those moments of joyful validation, this thing that you're intuitively feeling, and there just has to be some explanation for it. And then this amazing human design system just validating it. It's interesting to me that it's Uranus specifically that's lighting up this gate, because Uranus helps us break free from our inherited conditioning. And isn't being conditioned to be in our minds, future tripping or reviewing the past, something we're so conditioned to do as human beings? This shift felt so sudden and so dramatic, like a major breakthrough. So when I saw it was Uranus specifically activating this gate, it was a big aha moment for me. The other thing I discovered is that right now, the North Node and South Nodes are also activating gate 55 and gate 59. So we have 3 out of the 4 gates of the Cross of Sleeping Phoenix in notable activations right now. The North Node, which is what we're evolving into, is currently activating the gate with the gift of freedom, this sacred selfishness that people have been talking about in relation to the new paradigm. And the way that's playing out for me is that shift I was describing in my body, this hard no about compromising my self-interest for the greater good when there's no balance. I'd be so fascinated to hear what people with different authorities other than splenic authority, like how this might be showing up for you. When I think about this term of sacred selfishness that we're evolving into, I really think about honoring our own energy and our own boundaries first. For myself, it's really not compromising the service that is so natural to me, just making sure that I'm honoring myself first. The South Node activating a gate gives us an opportunity to release old conditioning related to that gate or gift. I was delighted to realize that some of the things I was talking about in my last episode about breaking down, letting go of masks, is exactly what the South Node is giving us the opportunity to do right now. It's just so fun when everything makes sense, isn't it? It's no wonder I've been feeling so called to talk about the energy of this cross. There's so much of it being activated right now. 3 out of the 4 gates, right here, right now. Before I move into the bigger arc, I want to sit with that for just a moment, because I think it gives context for why this next shift feels so significant. I want to zoom out and share some of the patterns I've been noticing going all the way back to 2012. So I noticed a collective awakening that a lot of people talked about starting around December of 2012, many people linking it to the ending of the Mayan calendar. And there were probably other schools of thought about that time point being significant, but what I noticed personally was a general awakening of my own spirituality at the time. In December of 2012, I was awakened by love. That process became a significant factor in the spontaneous spiritual awakening that I had about 6 months later. And it cracked open a path that I've been walking ever since. One of the biggest themes I heard people talking about around that time, and probably through 2020, was ascension. I saw a lot of teachers and schools of thought focus on transcending the human experience, transcending human emotion, human thought, raising your energetic and emotional vibration. And many people framed the goal of spirituality as enlightenment and unity consciousness. In many of the communities I found myself in, I heard conversations about the people who were awake and the people who were asleep, and hearing a lot of concerns from people who felt that their family members or their friends were falling behind them and being fearful that they might never wake up. Then I noticed another shift around March of 2020 with COVID. At the time, I remember writing something about the reawakening of the divine feminine energy. And what I mean by that is the divine feminine force of nature. So where the masculine is a straight line path, initiation of action, order, knowledge through logic, reason, and facts, and the giving principle, the feminine is the cyclical path, knowledge through intuition, flow, chaos, and receptivity. Regardless of whatever your opinions were about COVID, because we know it was a very polarizing time, it was also a time of chaos, of learning how to sit in collective uncertainty. Many people were furloughed at the time, not knowing how long the world was going to be shut down. People didn't know when they were going to return to work, how their children were going to be able to meet their educational needs while they were being schooled at home. People weren't sure if they were going to get sick or their loved ones were going to get sick. There was just a massive amount of uncertainty that we all had to sit in for an extended period of time. Which, sitting in uncertainty generally is not a strength of human beings. It was also a time where many people had to learn to open up to receptivity. With so much unpredictability around income, people had to receive support in ways they may never have been open to before. In a world that has been dominated by the masculine force of nature for a long time, reason and logic as a way of knowing has been revered far more than intuitive knowing. To the point where if you say that intuition is your reason for making a decision, people will push back and want a logical or factual reason to back it up in order for that to be legitimate. It's been curious to me that a lot of the community spaces for spirituality and spiritual exploration are dominated by women. And I've noticed a lot of women there expressing frustration about the lack of men showing up in those spaces. I've wondered for a while if the reason may be that many people who identify as women feel more connected to the feminine force of nature, this cyclical flowing path. And if the transformation for men just appears differently, where they may be more likely to have a sudden, direct, massive transformation as part of their process. Maybe their expression of spiritual growth just moves differently or in a different timing, which doesn't make it any less real or important. So the time points that I mentioned of these previous shifts are interestingly around 7-year cycles. The end of 2012 to the beginning of 2020 is about 7 years. And the onset of the pandemic in early 2020 is about 7 years before this paradigm shift. It's very curious to me. And as we're getting closer to the paradigm shift next year, I'm noticing yet a new pattern. And that pattern is a return to embracing our humanity. We are coming full circle from the idea of spiritual transcendence and ascension to a full and complete embrace of the beauty of the human experience. I touched on the collapsing of this paradox in episode 2 if you're curious about that idea and want to explore it more. I've noticed a number of people who have been on the path of spiritual growth get to the point where the process of growth has become such a job. There's always another mountain to climb, another aspect of their ego to shed, another trauma to excavate, to the point where they're spending all their time healing and none of their time living. The sense I'm feeling right now is that this invitation into the deep presence of Gate 20 can help set the stage for radical acceptance of what is. When I was exploring the city of the gene key of Gate 20, I noticed this concept of zero resistance, no arguing with reality. Like whatever is met with complete acceptance. And I do mean acceptance as like an active embrace, not resignation. It also feels like there's a calling for us to shed the need to rank each other. This idea that anyone is ahead or behind, or more or less evolved. When we look around these days, these ideas are running rampant. There are people who are right and wrong. There are people who are more or less evolved. And it's all based on whether or not somebody has a similar belief system to you. The radical acceptance that I'd love to see is this idea that we're all varied expressions of creativity. Every one of us, this unique and magnificent manifestation of the human experience, with not a single one of us that is right or wrong in our expression. And if there's an expression that you don't like, move away from it. We know the principle of what we resist persists. I think all of this resistance is just fueling bigger and bigger expressions of these things that you can just accept and let be and withdraw your energy from. And these ideas connect back to what I was saying earlier about stepping away from the licensing structure. It's one expression of the same pattern. The external authority deciding whose wisdom counts, who gets to serve, who's credentialed enough to care for another human being. That's the old system. And I think my body's done with it. I was chatting with this lovely couple at a wellness fair recently, and one of the things I said to them was, my feeling in my body right now is that a lot of the chaos that's going on in the world right now doesn't actually have anything to do with me. Because I'm choosing to remove my energy from the old that is crumbling and instead invest it into trying to build new systems. And again, that doesn't make me ahead or behind or better or worse than anybody else. It's just the authentic expression of what I feel called to do right now, what I feel called to be. And anything I feel called to be, or that anyone else feels called to be, is perfect in its expression. I think we have a lot of work to do to develop new ways of making sure that people's needs are going to get met as these larger institutions and organizations are collapsing and falling apart. As somebody with hope as my motivation, I have so much excitement about all of the amazing creative ideas that are going to emerge from all of this. And if you're one of the people out there who's been holding on to a big idea and wondering, can I actually make this happen? Is it worth putting any effort into this? I'm super excited to hear what you're thinking about and how you want to create it. The more of us who start to throw our wild ideas out there, the more we can build a community to figure out how we're going to connect with each other, support each other, and co-create this amazing world that we're on the brink of. Rather than one big system that everybody serves, we need to figure out ways to reallocate resources so that people can be co-creating in smaller groups that are authentically aligned to their own expression. From a purely practical, apolitical point of view, decentralization seems to be part of how these transitions are going to unfold and allow us to develop new systems, new ways of gathering and creating and taking care of people. So I guess that's what's been on my puzzle piece lately. The still mountain, the stream of thoughts that I'm no longer chasing. My friend who asked if I was excited about my birthday and got a very honest, maybe weird answer. And all the women searching for language to explain something that might not need a diagnosis. It might just need a different map. This shift into presence that I don't fully understand yet, but I'm certainly enjoying. But I think that's the point. Gate 20 isn't asking me to analyze it. It's asking me to be in it. And as I wrap up here, what I am genuinely curious about is what's showing up on your puzzle piece right now. Are you feeling any of this? The presence, the resistance to old systems, your own sacred selfishness starting to stir? Are you seeking language or an explanation for something that feels new or unfamiliar? Or maybe something completely different than what I talked about today? I want to hear all of it, even the parts that don't make sense to you yet. Feel free to send me an email at Suzanne@soulbloomcoaching.com or connect on social media. And as always, my sweet soul friends, be mindful of what you create and be good to yourself.